Okay, now we're recording. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our very first iDesign 2021 opening event. We are CIDSA at the University of Houston. This is our annual conference. It is completely student run, and we're so pleased to have you all joining us. So at this time, I'm going to pass it off to Pascal, our Vice President, who is going to be introducing our wonderful workshop leader for this evening. Pascal, take it away.
Thank you, Katie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction for Matt, and then we'll give it away to him to lead the workshop. So Matt Marchand graduated from San Jose State University with a degree in industrial design. After graduating, he took a position at Dick's Sporting Goods, where he currently creates gear on their outdoor design team in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Enthralled by ancient history and fungi, he draws inspiration from the past to contribute towards sketch-based design conversations today. Please help us welcome Matt Marchand.
Thank you, Pascal, and thank you, CIDSA. So fun to be talking here. Portfolios are something I care a lot about. It's one of those things that, like, unless you're a designer, people don't want to hear it, like at Thanksgiving time, talking about your interests. For me, it's portfolio, so I'm honored to be talking about it. I hope that the things I share with you today will be relevant. But before I started, one of the things that would help me is to know what's on your mind tonight. That way, as I'm talking about things, it's actually really relevant to you. So I'd love to get us started with some questions. And then whether or not I answer them right off the bat, I figured from there I could start talking, because all these things that we'll be talking about are related. And it is the idea that as you go through your life, you'll have made things. And those things are going to be viewable, or should be if you're going to be practicing design. And so how do you make that viewable thing something strong and compelling? So with that, are there any questions? Feel free to type them in too. I'll try to keep track there. Anything?
Hey, Matt. This is Elliot. I'll break the ice here a little bit, just because I know it can be a little bit hard to ask the first question. But I guess one of my questions that have come out with making a portfolio is, like, how much of yourself do you put in a portfolio, as in like your own personal interest, and then how much actual relevant work do you put on the portfolio, right? Like, what's a ratio? Is there a good rule of thumb, I
love it. That's a great question. I think ratio is the key phrase there, and it's something I keep hearing a lot of these days. The whole thing, well, without getting too deep into it, the whole thing is you. Your portfolio is an idea. It is ever changing. And so when you'd say, you've got your past, you've got your future, we've got your present, and your present is in video game format, hovering above your head in this digital cloud that we upload everything to. And that is viewable by lots of people. That should be a direct reflection of yourself, not as you are, but who you want to be in the industry. So if I want to design shoes, you're damn right I'm putting shoes in my portfolio, because if people are going to see shoes, that's what I got shown. So I'll have a visual that touches on these things, but that's a great question, and good to know. All right, got a question from Emily. What would you consider the biggest red flags you see students add to their portfolio that can really hurt their chances on getting the job/internship? Sometimes people put in too much work. So I'm still decently young. I haven't been hired too many places, and I haven't had to hire people, but I am around sometimes when they're looking at portfolios. And usually if a place is hiring, they've put it out somewhere. And when they put it out, they're met with a lot of questions, or not questions, applicants. And rather than ask questions of each applicant, they scroll through their work. And that scroll is really quick. So I've noticed some people put in too much or make it intimidating to engage with them further. Like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. And so that follow-up question of, hey, can we talk to you, isn't as easy to, I'll say, click. And I'll talk about that later too, which is your clickability. And yeah, Mariana, it looks like you just asked about what is too much work. I would say it's a ratio. So you won't go wrong by showing visuals of your work. For example, a 9x9 grid that shows your overall aesthetic. So people are saying, wow, they use a lot of pastels, or maybe they use a lot of wood, or it looks like they've got a chiseled aesthetic to their designs. These things are unspoken and cost the viewer nothing. Time is what's valuable when people are looking at products. So too much work isn't so much a number of projects, so much as it is an effort on the behalf of the viewer. So these are great questions. I'm going to see if I can share from my iPad, because if I can sketch at the same time on top of the notes, which is my favorite way of communicating. Let's see if this works. Oh, this is working, I think. Okay. Can you still hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, sweet. So we're in Procreate. This is not my go-to program, but I've been playing with it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys. That's you in the center here. You're walking around through life. This axis going through you is time. And so we're talking about right here at this moment, you've got this body of work, and this is from your time in the past, right? So you had a project here, project here, project here. And chances are in school, you're being mandated, hey, here's a project, we're going to work on prosthesis or sustainability. And along the way, you're picking up opportunities to design. And that's what the forward part is here. So as you go through your career, you will have a past, you already do. That's full of these projects, but where you want to go is what I'm calling your potential. And that's full of opportunities. The more you stack like if you've ever played with a spline in Illustrator, it's for my designers out there, you've got a heavy, or even in SolidWorks, a heavy back-weighted spline, it curves a little harder to the right or to the left. But if you've got a long trajectory, suddenly you get these really straight shots. So help yourselves early on while you're students and plan for what your potential is in the industry. And that'll largely be up to you where you start setting that spline now, and you'll pick up opportunities. This is all to say, while you are in charge of your portfolio, it's not really for you. It's for everyone else. It's for the viewers. It's for the people who are looking to hire you. So right now, if you're looking to get accepted to a master's program, to go start your own company, in which case it's a Kickstarter or some farmer's market thing, or work at a corporation or a design firm, you're going to communicate the things you've done, your past, into one format. And portfolio is such an intimidating thing, but it really comes down to a picture on a screen, because that's how we engage things. Sure, if it's in a book, that's something that is relevant today and I found good success with. But if your idea is simply seen by you as this 2D picture of who you are, your portfolio, this is just a one page, almost like a digital business card that should have these layers that make people reach for it. And then once they reach, keep digging and clicking. So your portfolio is your work, but it's really for other people to come engage with you. So that means that your work needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, and it needs to be compelling. Clear is something like a visual. People get pictures. You don't need to explain something when you can just look at the darn thing. Conciseness comes in text. Your portfolio should really be easily understood, not because you're describing it again, but because things work together so well that your story is told almost before you finish talking about it. And that's a compelling thing. So with those two things, you have a compelling side to your story. And with all that, and at the bottom of everyone's portfolio, whether it be online or whatever, you should have a big button. Sorry, I'm making that right here. That button is the thing that's going to get them to either reach out to you, or in web terms, they say conversion. So it gets them to reach out. But if you're reaching out to people in a portfolio that's a PDF, make sure that at the last page of that PDF, right in the center, is a big box for them to click your work and then go to your website where they can drop you a line, follow you on Instagram. Those are the little networking moments you can ensure by having something clickable at the very end. If people see too much of your work, to that question you had earlier, they might not be interested in getting any deeper. They say, we kind of saw it all. Let's reach back to them later. Maybe they will reach back to you, but had you maybe shown less, had a bit of mystery, you could have worked them into this place where, hey, I've invested a certain amount of interest in this person. Let's see more about them. I'm showing right here on the screen this example of like what a portfolio is. I'm trying to do it in a simple way. I was playing with how I see a portfolio put together before this. But I think it comes down to an impression, a mnemonic, and some depth. The impression is that all-important visual. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Make a good impression. The mnemonic is the title or the theme or like the idea that sticks in their head that pairs with the picture. So if they got one word with it to pair with your 1,000 words, that is the picture. And then your depth is where you earn people's trust. And so every part of your portfolio should have some amount of impression, some mnemonic, and some depth. And the depth could be dimensions on a SolidWorks file. It could be text describing your research. But all these things have to be in a balance that one never overdoes the other. One flaw I see on, I shouldn't say flaw, one example people try to do is fit all of these in a page, and they have many impressions and many mnemonics and a lot of depth, but it all kind of washes itself out because there's no hierarchy. So every page you should have one or the other. If it's a hero page, make it a big impression, either in name or mnemonic. So either have the title big and the picture small, with a little bit of depth describing your project or purpose, or you have the picture big and then you don't need to emphasize the other things as much. So you're always playing with it, but each page should feel refreshing and not overwhelming. Which is all to say, the culmination of, so you get one project at a time here. Okay, let's see the other project. As you work through this, you're defining your space. And that's should reflect your heart. Like at the end of the day, this should be the thing you're in love with, because you're maybe not boxing yourself in, or maybe you're aspiring towards as a visual way to say that. So you're working towards this point on every project you do, because you're including part of you and part of what you're interested in. That will fuel where you go, because at some point, you've redefined your trajectory to be what you're interested in. So in that sense, that's my little talk on portfolios and how to make it compelling. I'd be happy to walk through examples that you guys have, or go in more depth on some of the things I've talked about here, but sketching is the way I like to communicate. So I hope this kind of makes sense. Also, I tend to talk really fast, so if I need to repeat anything, let me know.
Hello. I understand the impression and the depth. Can you go a little bit more into the mnemonic? What does that entail?
Absolutely. Let's say on this page, you've got a project that you're proud of. What you call it is often going to be the thing that's shown up in SEO or hashtag or other people's articles. So a mnemonic is a term for something that sticks in your head. So like PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or FOIL. Those are mnemonics. And like, that's the reason we know them, because they stick in your head somewhere or somehow. So in that sense, I'll give you an example of the thing I'm working on. There's a hammock chair at work that we're trying to design. I've called it the swing set's chiller cousin. Now that's a terrible name, but at the same time, it drives the conversation because it acts as a way to get through what could be difficulties in conversations. If you have a mnemonic, you've pierced the barrier and suddenly you live rent-free in someone's brain. And so people tend to do that by either adding funny accents to their words, or if it's a Scandinavian design, they'll find a Scandinavian word for fire, which are great. Those things tend to work. But whatever it is, it should be memorable, because when people talk about your work later on, they usually don't remember the name. They'll say, oh, that project, da, da, da. But good projects take into account that if you have a good name, it should be that thing already that people are thinking of. For example, a song, if you've ever looked up a song and then found the name and it had nothing to do with any of the lyrics, it's kind of disappointing. But at the same time, that could be perfect, memorable song. So it's up to you to find that balance of nomenclature and memorability. One thing I've done is taken all my project and named them this, because I'm trying to think of it from other people's point of view. Oh, what was that chair, or the chair you worked on? And for me, if I were to do a chair, I'd almost want to call it the chair, or the characteristic factor of it. That way it's already the name people default call it. So I hope that answers that question. I also saw some comments. I'm gonna pop in there. Oh, good questions. How far do you think you can successfully deviate from the normal portfolio mediums, like websites and PDFs? For example, some people choose social media outlets like Instagram or Behance. Are physical portfolios dead? I love this question. No, physical portfolios are not dead. I actually credit the cooler jobs I've gotten to the fact that I had physical books present. This will tie into your other part of the question about Instagram and Behance. So if we're talking about opportunity here, how do you maximize for this? Because this should be the thing you're focusing on a day, not on a day-to-day, but on a year-to-year. And it's where am I growing? Where's my opportunity? And to encourage more opportunity, increase your chances of getting cool designs on the market or getting more projects in your past, you have to be engaging with people. You have to be communicating. And part of that is taking advantage of all the tools out there. So you've got Instagram, you've got the Behance, you could be doing, I don't know, I'm sure there's ideas of things that aren't Adobe and Facebook, my two least favorite companies. But I think part of that is going to be the real world again, because you can't replace the physical amount of physical work. So one thing that I've heard as working with designers is when you go to meetings, bringing your portfolio book. The reason is, again, everyone's looking at a screen. If you're doing the one thing that's physical, or if you can mail them something, suddenly you've caught their attention. Sure, it might cost more getting it printed, but it's really fun to also have your work on the shelf afterwards.
Hey, Matt,
yeah.
Oh, I had asked that question. I'm actually Juliana, not Eric Slope. But I had asked that question about the physical portfolio. And I guess where I'm kind of hung up is how do you get that opportunity to show a physical portfolio in the first place? And you just mentioned you could mail it or you could bring it to a meeting. But I guess the real question is, how do you get the meeting first?
I shouldn't have said mail it. People said that to me. I never mailed anything. I shouldn't have said that. I wouldn't. I think that's where the Instagram and the Behance comes across strong, because you can show up on people's feed. Oh, LinkedIn, that's the other one. That's where a lot of people are doing networking. So part of the mnemonic of maybe the words associated with your product is the mnemonic of the things you're putting out there. So if you do post these things in an interesting way, one, it should be interesting to you, but two, if it's interesting to people, there's a chance that you'll get more eyeballs. And the more eyeballs you have, again, the more opportunities you're going to get. I hate saying that because it feels very disingenuous to like sell yourself. But what I would encourage is become excited about your own work and find people who are also excited about those things. And if you can emphasize that, then you never have to sell yourself in a disingenuous way. Rather, you simply get to play all day long.
So essentially, you still kind of have to use the online portfolio as the main tool.
Word of mouth is still the strongest, but that takes, connections. And early on, there's no more opportunity than a global international connection 24/7 in your pocket. So that will be the easiest. But I would, if you can, make real strides in your local communities. For example, the IDSA in Pittsburgh, which is where I live, has happy hours where people get together. It's not the student IDSA, but it's a good way for us to talk about what we're doing at work and what we're looking at working on. And so from those relationships, you'll set yourself up to have more opportunities throughout your career.
I have a question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
At what point do we start cleaning up or removing old projects? Like, this is my first year. I have only very few projects. So my portfolio currently like has old architecture work, and I see other people, they have like the sketches they used for like applying for university, creating a portfolio, like random sketches and stuff like that. And as the years progress and I have more projects, because right now I don't have many projects, at what point is it harmful or embarrassing to to still keep having these things? Or how do we navigate that?
Man, you got what you got. The past is what it is. If your past is full of projects that you're not proud of, then don't show them, because it should be things that speak to your potential. If you're showing people something, unfortunately, what they see from what you've shown is the whole scope. They can't see inside your heart, your brain. So you really have to visualize it for them. In that sense, sometimes showing less is better because you have some mystery to you versus showing like, oh, this is when I first sketched. And it's like, I don't want to see these baby sketches. Like, you were 3. It's like, yeah, I was drawing and playing Legos back then. Who wasn't? So in that sense, put your best foot forward, because if you want to make a strong impression, you'll do it with something that is worth people's time. That being said, having things from your past, you can still present them simply by cleaning up maybe your picture, erasing the background, and having your architecture thing be on a similar context to the other images on your site. So it looks like your trajectory is still, consistent. Like, oh, they always use that red dot in all these projects. And then you can begin to see, oh, I get this person. I like that they have that feature about them. And so that will again enforce your your portfolio. Someone said, can you share how I'm presenting this? This is an iPad on my right here, and it's Procreate. So I'm sharing that screen. I'll start sharing because someone said, Melody, could we see some examples? I'd be happy to share my screen of my portfolio, but I'd also be happy to review and roast other people if anyone was brave enough. Do you guys want to see my stuff?
Yeah.
Who's this guy if he's gonna talk all this shit? You better have a strong portfolio. We'll see. Let's see if I can stop sharing my screen here.
Is this the same portfolio that got you your job, or is this your most recent? Are they different?
It's one and the same, because I've been having the mindset of the work I want to do now, and this was part of that picture, should both be ancient and futuristic. And so the projects I'm showing go almost to the my second year of San Jose State. because I had that mindset then due to some of the things people were sharing with me at that time. Because that portfolio sticks with you, you should be doing things that you will be relevant and diverse in a lot of years. So Karina asked, is 4 fleshed out projects a good number portfolio? Absolutely. I think 3 is the bare minimum. Okay. Let's see if I can share my screen. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Can you? Yeah, okay. So this is my website. This is my default portfolio for the past few years, but I have my portfolios in printed form from school. Again, because as soon as I stayed at the time, printing was still popular. I don't know if you guys do it, but at portfolio review, it was really good for people to be able to flip through and hold the ideas in their hands literally, rather than simply look at them on a wall where they can't really touch. But the digital portfolio I did kind of at the same time, and that was really helpful because I realized the importance of recognizing these things are just pictures. At the end of the day, your project is at best a hero shot and a title and some description as to why you did it. So I'll go through this project. This was done my senior year. The topic was how can we improve healthcare at home? And so this portfolio or my book was actually the exact same thing. If I were to look at this website in like a zoomed out view, it would be just like a book, because I'm trying to take them through a paces. Here's the question. Here's the mystery. Here's like how I'm solving this problem. And these images aren't saying much, but they're saying what I want, which is, here's my vibe. Like, can you dance with me on this one? Or here's my tempo, catch up. And so as the viewer's going through here, hopefully they're getting an idea of, oh, he can tell a good story. I like that. As they're going through the story, they're seeing I have some skills with sketching, as well as like maybe some engineering things. But as you notice, there's a whole lot of texture on the left no one's ever going to read. That's okay. It did what I want, which is I know what I'm talking about here. I wrote about it. I talked about the problems that I'm solving, show some more images. You know, these aren't the best photos in the world, but I was in my apartment and working with what I could. The lighting in there, the walls were yellow, they weren't actually white. So I went through photo by photo for some consistency and grayed out the yellow on the saturation bar. And so by doing that, I had this really strong, consistent series of images simply by taking the time to make them match. And that's that consistency that will, on all my projects, personally, be seen as I tend to use natural, I just want to say natural ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's, natural materials and colors that reflect that, because I think those things are timeless. So the more I associate myself with them, the more I feel like I'll be timeless. That's my funny theory, but that comes across in my drawing. So I keep my sketches kind of rough because I think that's gritty. It's kind of fun. And again, I'm showing, hey, look, I can sketch. Hey, look, I can look at design trends from woods to fabrics to ceramics. And then I can also do this research side. So I started my portfolio by getting you hooked by saying like, ooh, pretty pictures this way. You go, oh, that's cool. That's nice. And then by the time you're invested, you're like, okay, I can see how they designed this. And these slides don't matter, but to simply say, hey, I was there, I did it. Process is a really important thing to show in your portfolio. You have to show it, but it doesn't have to be ugly. For example, your research pages all probably have these mood boards. These are great. Blow them up, emphasize them, because they add a lot of vibe. That's a dumb word, but they add a lot of vibe. With a solid persona and some topics that need addressing, it's time to visualize the concepts. So again, this picture is grayed out. So I'm saying, hey, big visual impression, but the highlight is actually on the text. So this is me playing with ratios again. I'm never overwhelming. ooh, there's a lot of concepts, but I made them small so you can't actually see them. So you get, okay, he did a lot of work, but you're not overwhelmed. Rather, you get to see the one, take your breath. You get to see the other, take your breath. Take your breath. Even in this page, I've got a big visual, a lot of detailed text, but that's kind of the point, is the emphasis of information. And then a big text and some detailed text. So with these things, I talk about the refinements, the prototypes that I'm making. Actually, on these photos, see how the background's yellow? I wish I had gone in there, taken that yellow color, dropped the saturation. Boom, you would have these very clean, like grayed out pictures that wouldn't look so sepia in yellow apartment lighting looking. And again, because these are pictures, no one will know until you put them up and show them on your site. So something I've even done in recent years is go in, take my pictures and sketch on top of them. And by sketching, you're actually adding like another layer of make-believe. And that's really helpful for telling a good fairy tale, like, which is, I know what I'm doing as a designer. You could definitely trust me with your projects, because you got to kind of make believe for a bit. Anyway, so I'm presenting my things. I clearly say, hey, here's what I did. And this process book is huge. It's really thick, but I'm really happy with how it turned out, because you can turn to any page and it won't feel like a process book. It'll feel like a little bit of documentation. And that's what a good portfolio should be, is it's not like slogging through your work, but celebrating like, wow, you've got a beautiful eye, or like you've got so many like physical talents with how you can prototype things. Or if you like shop and modeling stuff, show the details on your products. And yeah, it all comes down to those pictures, but which ones you show is up to you. So that's one project, but overall I try to have like a series of images like this that say, hey, here's what I'm about. And more than any one particular look, you should be able to see from this book cover view who you are. So when you're applying to places, have your first PDF be something that's a lot of beautiful pictures, or I shouldn't say beautiful, compelling images that make people go, oh, what is that? But you've shown them enough that makes them go, well, I can see they have an eye as a designer or as a process maker or something. What else do they have for me? And that's where you have either a big button for them to click, or on my website, I just have at the very bottom a contact sheet. So you can't go any lower, and you're kind of forced to either go back up and see the work again, leave a comment, or leave. But I've given them a chance to go through the entire site. You guys want to see more projects, or should I start roasting other folks?
Can you go to the coffee grinder?
Yeah.
The metate?
Yep. This was a project that was about, I think I made it about rituals, but make your morning meaningful, an ancient tool for a modern rise and grind. This statement kind of drove my design. And so we were talking about mnemonics earlier. I like alliteration because it's kind of comes with a tempo. It's like poetry. So M, make your morning meaningful. And that idea of how do you engage with your mornings was really important. And this was pre-COVID, but we realized the importance of adding a little more thought into these things. Now this is a design about a metate, which is a tool for grinding. So I made it about the modern rise and grind. I've got an image here that's kind of mysterious, but then I answer the question right away. What is it? It's so preposterous, this project, but that was what I wanted. I wanted something that was almost more art piece than it was a shiny tool, like another app or another phone of sorts. And in that sense, I tried to lean into something taboo. You saw that on my previous project, which was Can Arrest, which dealt with cannabis. This project dealt with like ancient technology. Why would I want my coffee ground by stone in the morning? Both those things are pushing the spheres of like practical products, but allow me to say what I want to, which is, hey, I've got these crazy ideas. I can present them very well. And in fact, because they're crazy, you'll stay a little bit more interested in my work. And this begins this circle where they begin to see, oh, I see what this guy's going towards or heading to. I don't know. So each project you have should have those kinds of thoughts in your head, because this is your portfolio. So when Pascal introduced me earlier, he mentioned fungi and ancient art. Those are things I'm interested in. And so I'm not afraid to show them in my work. I want those things to be what people know me for, because that's what I want to talk about all the time. So like full transparency, this project didn't work that well. Grinding these coffee beans was terrible in this device. But the whole point was, again, me telling a story, and people wouldn't know, they just have these 2D images to go off of. That's not to say you shouldn't seek excellence in your products and actually working. But don't be afraid to tell a good yarn, you know, because the better that yarn is, the more they might want to like pull at it. So here, again, compelling pictures, big, bold text, deep descriptions, and then images to help describe it. So, yeah, I tended to put a lot into this project, but it was easy as I was going, because I just had the website live, and then I had InDesign open. So on one side, I would just make the content that I made that day, drop it in my exploration section. So like round 5 concepts. And then in website form, I made it as a box that you could go right and left. That took 5 minutes. And then in the book form, I made these like small sketches on a page. So as you're going, don't try and do your portfolio at the end. Again, it's a living document. Just keep chipping away at it day by day. And always say thank you at the end of things. Thank your professors, thank your classmates, thank the people that facilitated your experiences, because we don't design in a vacuum. We're on a big team. I saw there's chat questions. Is it better to show variety, versatility, or focus similar style? I think if you have a strong style, you could do anything in the world and people will know, oh, that was Mariana. They touched that project. You can tell because it's got the red dots. You know, I don't know. Whatever your style is, will have a language that's distinct. And the more you work on it, and the more you spend time working on designs, especially other people's designs, there will be these things that as they're asking for it, they'll say, oh, and can you add laser lights to it? You won't be able to do it because you'll say, laser lights, that's not me. Like, it's best that you hire someone else. Yeah, hopefully you're at the point in your career where you can turn down work, but in the meantime, I focus on learning learning who you are as a designer and your design language, and then broadening your perspectives by working on as many different things as you can. Because the design challenge is a design challenge. It's just another opportunity to think outside whatever the box is of the day. All right, Marina, how do you balance your strengths and weaknesses without going overboard or skimping on a particular skill? For example, maybe I'm a really good sketcher, but not so great at research. Research doesn't have to look cool. How do I make this more thematic? I think you can take the skills you are good at and use those to be so strong that people don't even question the other ones. For example, if your research is weak, use your sketching to draw your research and draw your pie charts. There's no reason you can't do that, but people would, without you having a portfolio full of sketching, maybe you're leveraging that to show I can communicate clearly with my hand, which is what sketching is. If your skills are in things that are non-visual, like people, like how you interact with people, that's when maybe video content would be important. or if it's in model making, showing the details behind it, because depending on the job you want, if it's more engineering focused, they'll probably care about those things. If it's more creative focused and like graphic design based, maybe you will want to have things that stand out in that field. So it's really different to what your interests are. But you probably already knew that. I'll give you an example of the sketching. So this is an example of like a name that people remember. They'll either say the carrier, the baby carrier, or Rue. It's just really short, sticks in people's head. This is just a Photoshop. I could show you guys if I could find it. The pictures here, it looks like really fancy. I'm actually in my kitchen, like holding these up with like coat hangers and like fishing wire. And then all I did was Photoshop out that shitty yellow background and put this nice gradient in and a baby. But you guys don't know that, right? Because you'll only ever see this picture. And that's the beauty of your portfolio. It's what you make. If in this case you do a crappy Photoshop, people point it out to you for forever, but whatever. Showing your process doesn't have to be like a ton of pictures. It could just be one with a lot of chaos going on. So you'll notice I start off this section with a bunch of pictures. It's to kind of set the tone. I give a little bit of text, invite you to see how it's made, and then I start talking about research. This was in book format, literally, so there would be a crease going down the center here. So on one side, you had this couple, that couple on another side. I kept my research very plain because I didn't want to like be the guy who's known for research personally. Like in my opinion, a designer or in my design field, like you should trust me to do my job. I don't want to have to give you book reports every day. That was my approach. But so I'm still, the research is more about this person in the story, not so much the stats and the deets. Granted, depending on the job, you will have to take measurements, for example, on baby carriers to make sure it's fitting all types of people. But this is my example of taking sketches and showing my research on some photos. So this was a lady online who, when I emailed her about using her pictures, she didn't email back. So I hope it's cool. I've never sold anything. But she had a really great Instagram of content where she is this like badass mom who goes around, and she was, to me, the perfect persona. Her whole family was. So by sketching on these pictures, I start engaging with this life that they're portraying. And it's the perfect combination. Like as a designer, like these people are exactly who you're designing for. So if you can find content online that is contributes to your story, and then make it yourself. So keep in mind in the production phase that you can take photos as if you were a website talking about it, and then come back after the fact and draw. So in this case, the backpack was just this piece of cardboard, but I was able to draw it just to make it look a little bit more real. More sketches, some directions, some designs. Talking about these things, like it's good to share the difficulties you had. I think that's really fun to read when like you're reviewing someone's portfolio and they're like, I had a hard time with this. You're like, wow, you're not a superhero. Like you're actually a real person. Thank you. Again, pretty pictures rather than just life-draining text. And that's kind of it. So that was one other story. Oh, and if you'll notice at the bottom of the site, I have the options right there for you to click. Work, about, contact. So again, you don't want to give people too many options. You want to give them almost like a gut feel. So any more questions from folks?
Did you actually get to manufacture the desalinator, or is that like a really good prototype?
Oh, I should open this. So, the desalinator, it's just a good prototype. People have reached out to like make it. They're like, hey, this is really cool. We'd love to make it. And I'm like, oh, by the way, like it doesn't like, it's a made up thing. And then they say, oh, well, when the technology is real, let us know. But that again is me suspending disbelief for a moment and letting my role as a student be like a tool for exploration rather than a hindrance. I can work on the future before anyone pays me to. So let's say in 10 years, this technology from MIT comes out where they can actually make one of these things. Guess whose name is going to be associated with it? Because I got 10 years of like Google stuff going on. And I named it the desalinator. So anytime someone types in desalinator, there's one more chance. So that's that mnemonic I'm talking about. And that's that potential. I want to work on water saving tools because it's what our earth needs. I don't have that job opportunity yet, but I'm glad I put this in my portfolio because my time in school was so brief. It went by so quick. And each project you have is one chance to see an idea through that you won't have unless you're working for yourself. So yeah, I was going to show you the mood board. This is an idea I had, let me know if it works to you guys, of what is more appealing than a Le Manouche or like Instagram like curated feed where you just scroll and go like, wow, like that's so nice, like that's the best. I had this idea that what if my portfolio was this kind of bulletin board of like cool images? It's possible. Like this table, I kind of regret that the background has this blue on it. You kind of see that like graininess. It's a little bit different from this gray up here. So this gray is E. It's like 6 E's in a row. It's what Google uses. To me, it's just the perfect gray. And I love that I can remember what it is. So by knowing that little hex code, I can make all my backgrounds from this one to this one to this one on every project consistent. So as you scroll through, you're saying, oh, I get this guy. He's the E dude. Also, I tend to stick with warms because I like warm stuff. So you'll notice all my pictures have this orangey hue. I talk about red as being like important in physics because it's the slowest wavelength. It's the longest wavelength, but the fastest one to you. But it's kind of counterintuitive. It hits your retina first, and it's the color of blood and like passion and fire and like. I try to incorporate that color in my work because I feel like if physics said it's going to work, then it's probably going to hold up for me okay. Same with green, like that's nature, that's life. So these different colors you'll notice on my mood board show up and again and again and again. But that wasn't just on accident. That's because I've been trying to tell this story since my portfolio classes at San Jose State. And I should say a lot of it is stealing other people's stuff, just flat out like, that's sick, I want that, how do I do that? And that's like the chromatic aberration idea. So on this photo, I don't know if you can see it, there's like a slight blur. Let's see if I can get to it on a clearer one. This is something this guy on Instagram named Nick Baker was talking about. You see how it's got this bluish greenish hue in here? It's this trait of photography called chromatic aberration, where the image like does the CMYK thing. Kind of like this light above my head, probably. Kind of looks like that. So that takes your crisp renders, and this is a tip to all the people rendering stuff out there, and shifts the pixels enough that your brain, you have to have the lighting right, but your brain will forgive these kind of like glitches in the matrix, like, oh, I know what that is. And it fills in the gaps on behalf of people. So in your portfolio, keep in mind, these are just 2D images. You can do a lot of photoshopping. For example, this one on the right here, I had a stick running through the back of it and I was holding it up above the table. And so I just went in and this shadow is totally fake. The background's fake, but the lighting on it is real because we needed to get it looking good. So there's so many things you can do and post edits. Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure in this sketch, or in this picture, I sketched some things onto it, like little highlight lines. You're just trying to make people believe for a little bit. I've got a lot of practical portfolio hacks too. I don't know. I'm sure you guys got questions on those. How did you choose a portfolio platform that you did? I was on Squarespace for a while. I thought it was the bee's knees. Ended up not liking it because it wouldn't let me customize all the little persnickety things I wanted to. Wix had that availability. Since then, I've done a lot of websites through here, through Wix. Let me stop sharing my screen. And yeah, I like it. I think Behance is a great place to have your work. You should have all your work on Instagram as well, LinkedIn. Just put it out there, be proud of it. But your website will be your home for your work for a while. So make sure to pick something that's easy for you to update, and stay updating it. Keep your portfolio in mind, because that will exist even after you're gone, in a sense. Like, this is your rep on the line, so make it good.
Mhm. I have a question.
Yeah.
Following on the point where you said we should like only show very few projects and stuff. So if you would rank exclusivity on platforms, like which one would have more projects and which one would have less projects? Like, do we put everything on Behance and just the very few on the website? What's going on?
That's a great question. Put them all on Behance. That's on Adobe's terms. You're not going to offend everyone, but make your hero image. So when they see all your projects at once on Behance, make that cohesive, because that becomes a little portfolio. Once you click into the individual projects, they take on a world of their own. You don't have to follow my example. I was just showing my portfolio style. It can be good depending on what kind of designer you are to show a crazy amount of projects. Just make sure that it's cohesive. I would say it should be a well of clicking. So like you get them to click into the big picture where they're like, "Ooh, that's a nice, eye-catching thing, make an impression." Then make them click down to the point where they're contacting you. And whether that goes through Instagram and they're just casually scrolling and they see something nice, then from there they see an interesting link or title in your bio, click that, and then they're contacting you. Or just emphasizing the message me tool. You're kind of going to have to pick in your career where you want things to point towards. I'm currently looking for my home on the web. I don't feel like Instagram or Behance are like the places for me. I feel like it's more my website, but I don't know how to make that accessible by other people nor should it need to be. And so those are the questions I think our generation is going to have to solve. I say that because I'm 30, so I won't call myself an old head yet, but they are from the school where you had a physical portfolio, and people who are maybe 50 now don't have an online one. Maybe they might just have like a collection of work that they can bring places, or they know enough people in the field. I think we will have to be the ones who have digital portfolios that are almost like our own home on the web. So lately I've been adding to mine and making it a shop. The reason is I can show my design work, but I can also show the things I'm working on. And like, eventually I'd like to have my own products as a designer on my site. So eventually your platform should be entirely yours. Like the basis of where all those websites are floating out in space should point back to a place that is fundamental to you and foundational to your presence on the web. So in my case, it's my name, mattmarchand.com. And everything, if I don't know what to put, I just put that. And that homepage should tell you everything you need to know. I hope that answers that one.
Yes, thank you.
All
Yeah.
right, guys. We have time for one more question. If anyone has a final question.
This has
This
been
isn't
so
going to
fun.
be the most helpful question, but I was just curious because I did a little looking through your Instagram and I just wanted to know, how was your scroll project coming along? Did you ever like make more prototypes on that,
Oh,
the scroll reader?
man, that one lives in the back of my head all the time. It's the book, right? That like would go on a little thing and you could roll your paper.
Yeah, so it caught my eye because I was actually working on something similar. And then I saw, oh my gosh, he's already making it and doing it. So I just wanted to see if there was an update on that.
I'll pass the baton to you. You let me know how it goes. I ran into some issues with the engineering behind it. You'd have to have a very fine-tuned machine that allows the paper to roll from one. So if you, sorry, Newton's law says that no mass can be added or subtracted from the universe, or like those things are set. Same with paper. If you take from this side to add to this side, those two you're not adding or subtracting anything. You're just shifting from one to the other, and they take up eventually the same space. And so you have to have a platform for your papers that adjust. And that is either a fancy act of mechanics, so like springs, or some device. Yeah. Anyways, so it was really like a physics issue. I was like, this is binding every time. But
so you're trying to make it very efficient and actually more practical than, say, just using like the ancient method of rolling it up.
yeah, because if we could solve that, I think it would solve a lot of things, but it might not be solvable. But I love the projects that are so simple like that. It's like pushing the brink of like what's possible with modern technology, you know? But good, I would love to see where you go with that.
I might just make my portfolio a scroll and just, well, I'll have one very impractical portfolio and then I'm guessing a virtual website platform.
Look forward to seeing it. By the way, if anyone would like to get feedback on your stuff, I've rambled here for a bit, but I'd be happy to like answer any questions you had. You know where you can message me at. But I really appreciate the chance to talk about this because this portfolio stuff is very special to me.
Yeah. Matt, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We're in here just like, we should show you like all the notes that we're taking, but we're learning a lot, man. Thank you. We really,
because you're pretty quiet, so I wasn't sure.
yeah. If it's okay with everyone, would you mind turning on your camera so we can take one group screenshot of everyone?
Is it not?
The Zoom.
Oh, also, I should.
How do I
Let me know when you're gonna take it.
Yeah. We'll do a little countdown. I'm just waiting for people.
I'm gonna put that sketch I did in the comments here so you guys can have it.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I'll count us down if you guys are ready. All right, 1, 2, 3. We're good.
Okay.
All righty.
Hold on, getting that photo ready. That work?
Yep.
Nice.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you again. My honor to be here.
Oh my gosh, we are so appreciative. Just thank you so much for dropping all this wisdom and for just being so cool and so kind and for sharing your experience with us. We really, really appreciated it.
Our paths will cross. The design world's small, so I look forward to meeting you all in person one day soon.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you guys for attending. We hope to see you all at our other events throughout the week, and have a lovely evening. Bye, y'all. Thank you.